Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
What I want to talk about now, though, is a Christian street preacher who was shut down by London's Transport Police outside King's Cross Station. Now, she has exclusively spoken to GB News, claiming that Christians are being heavily persecuted in this country and that police are not doing this to other religious speakers. Shocking, indeed, if true. Well, are we living in this two-tier approach by the authorities that we hear so much about? I'm delighted to say I am joined now in the studio by that street preacher herself, Monique Bailey.
It is true that the police did tell us that you need a permit, so that is truth, but it's the way it was handled. She was very... It was just astonishing. I just couldn't believe how a police person could come against us like that. Like, we were abiding by the rules. And by the way, I didn't actually put the full clip on just to, in a way, save her, because it actually got worse.
OK.
Yeah.
Monique, can I just quickly ask, if you take a step back and look at Britain, you know, as a Christian, you see the demonstrations that we've had since October 7th, some would say pro-Hamas, anti-Israel demonstrations, pretty overt displays of anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
We've had the Lucy Connolly case. We've had, I would argue, clear evidence of a two-tier approach within our judicial legal system. Do you think that we are actually now entering a society where some groups, some religions are treated much more harshly than others? Do you think, for example, if you had been a Muslim preacher in King's Cross Station, the reaction would have been the same? Yeah,
of course, every religion gets something thrown at them, but I do think, of course, Christianity is the most persecuted, and I do think we will see it more.
GB News, the People's Channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome to Friday Night with Matt Goodwin right here on GB News. Now, if you thought that things in Britain couldn't get even more insane than they are currently, well, listen to this. Suspended Labour councillor Ricky Jones, who last August at an anti-racism protest in East London drew his finger across his throat and called demonstrators disgusting Nazi fascists, adding, "We need to cut all their throats and get rid of them all." Well, he has today been found not guilty by a jury who deliberated for just over half an hour. All this while Lucy Connolly, a mother, is currently serving 31 months for a 51-word post she made online in the wake of the Southport killings, which she subsequently deleted and apologised for. Now, of course, there are some differences between the two cases. Lucy Connolly pleaded guilty to the offence of inciting hatred, and a judge decided her sentence. Ricky Jones, on the other hand, pleaded not guilty, and a jury decided that he was not guilty. However, Ricky Jones, although initially remanded in custody, was granted bail, while Lucy Connolly was not granted bail. Had she been given the same opportunity, she might have been more likely to plead not guilty, and of course could very well have been acquitted by a jury, much like Jamie Michael was when he faced a similar charge. Michael had posted a 12-minute video claiming that illegal immigrants have, and I quote directly, the numbers to take over. That means take over the country. Well, he pleaded not guilty and avoided conviction. But underlying this, out there among millions of hard-working, law-abiding Brits, of course, is what all of this is about. A profound sense of a two-tier justice system, a sense that the rules simply are not the same for everybody, and that ordinary people can be punished harshly while others can walk free. course, there are other cases that you'll know about, like Peter Lynch, a grandfather who was sent to prison for more than 2 years for shouting that the police were, and I quote, protecting people who are killing our kids and raping them. Now, tragically, Peter Lynch died in prison. Meanwhile, Ricky Jones has been found not guilty and does not face a day behind bars. The system, it seems to me, isn't blind. It has a clear bias, and ordinary law-abiding citizens are the ones who are paying the price. But of course, as ever, I want to know your views, so do send them in. To discuss this case, I'm joined now by External Affairs Officer over at the Free Speech Union, Connie Shaw. Connie, Ricky Jones, a lot of people out there will see this decision, throw their hands up and say, what on earth is happening in Britain? As I said there are some differences between the case of Ricky Jones and Lucy Connolly, but it does seem that this is another glaring example of two-tier Britain.
Yes, it really does seem like that, especially from the perspective of Lucy. Can you imagine what she must feel like seeing the fact that he has been acquitted? As you say, the point really here, the two-tier justice really starts when Lucy was remanded in custody and Ricky Jones was released on bail. By being released on bail, he was able to take a considered decision as to who would represent him, etc. And Lucy was still behind bars and didn't have access to the external support that she may have been able to had she been out and, you know, had the opportunity to think, you know, what do I want to do here? The other thing is that Ricky's trial was delayed multiple times, so he had over a year to decide what his defence was. Whereas Lucy, even if she had pled guilty, would have had to wait behind bars for her trial, and who knows how long that could have been. Yeah,
I mean, it really is outrageous. Now, lots of people out there saying if you get charged with a speech offence, if you are, you know, you say something in the heat of a moment and so on, the lesson from the Ricky Jones case is that you should resist pressure to plead guilty, that you should, you know, bide your time and push for a jury trial. From the perspective of the Free Speech Union, is that what you're taking away from this, that actually people should resist if indeed they find themselves in this situation, being pressured by the justice system to plead guilty?
Nearly always, you nearly always should plead not guilty. Obviously, we're always open. If anyone finds themselves in that situation, come to the Free Speech Union straight away. It was absolutely devastating that we couldn't get to Lucy in time so that she had that advice.
And where does this free speech debate go now? Because we've just seen those historic images, Donald Trump obviously meeting Vladimir Putin, but, you know, Donald Trump's sidekick, the Vice President, J.D. Vance, in the UK has been recently. We've had this US State Department report that has come out and said for the first time the US is downgrading its score for human rights in Britain, mainly because of these, what it sees as severe restrictions on free speech. So, look, when I step back and I put all of this together, the Ricky Jones case, the Lucy Connolly case, a lot of other things we've seen over the last couple of years, non-crime hate incidents, this new Islamophobia law, it seems as though the Americans are right. Free speech is being eroded.
They're absolutely right, and I appeared on GB News back in February saying J.D. Vance is absolutely right, and we are an embarrassment to the world on free speech issues. And to see Keir Starmer repeatedly saying, oh, we've had free speech in this country for a very long time, and we always will, it's like, wow, it just feels like you're screaming into the abyss. And even earlier today, I was on LBC, and the presenter was, he didn't think that there was a crisis with free speech in this country, but I'd be out of a job if there wasn't a crisis. The only reason the Free Speech Union exists is because there's such high demand. We have almost 40,000 members. We've dealt with 4,000 cases since the start of 2020 when we first set up. We have 300 cases open at any one time, and they're just the individual cases. Yeah. On the wider scale, we're also dealing with the Online Safety Act, the secretive Islamophobia definition, the Prevent programme, which says if you're concerned about Western migration, Western civilization being under threats by mass migration and lack of assimilation, then you hold a far-right terrorist ideology. It's an avalanche. It's an avalanche.
Well, dearie me, I may find myself being accused of being a terrorist. Who knows? Well, I'm joined now to discuss all of this with my panel, acting deputy editor at The Telegraph, Poppy Coburn, and political commentator Kai Wilshaw. Poppy, what's the take-home for you from this Ricky Jones case?
I think what you're going to immediately see, and I'm sure the secret barrister has already been at this, is an argument that's made on technical grounds that the narrative about two-tier justice in Britain is incorrect. And I just want to push back really hard against this. You know, I think, as Connie completely correctly pointed out, Lucy Connolly was railroaded into taking a decision where she pled guilty to this crime. time. Lord Hermer himself perfectly intervened in this case. She actually was charged under a different section of the Public Safety Order Act. So she was charged under Section 19. That's usually used once a year. Last summer it was used 15 times.
Wow.
Okay, whereas Ricky Jones was charged under 2.1, which is a totally different section, which is treated less seriously. So what we've actually been seeing, there is evidence of two-tier justice because there's two different sections of the law here being applied. So, you know, don't let people wiggle out of this on the grounds that, it's a jury trial, it's out of our hands.
Kai Wilshaw, what's your take-home from the Ricky Jones decision today? But also, Labour are clearly on the back foot on this free speech issue. I mean, but at the same time, they don't seem to get the severity of this.
Yeah, I think part of the issue is because we talk about two-tier justice, when actually the big issue is a complete absence of justice. And who you'll find on the side of the likes of Lucy Connolly is Just Stop Oil, Palestine Action, who also consider that their treatment has been completely unfair. But when we talk about two-tier justice, I think lots of elements in the media make it about race and Islam, when actually there's a broader discussion to be had about the complete breakdown of the justice system in this country. And I totally agree. There's been what seem to be miscarriages in a lot of cases. But that argument doesn't really help when you compare cases like Lucy Connolly and Ricky Jones side by side. People are, of course, going to come to their own conclusion.
Connie Shaw, just lastly, before I go to a statement from the Labour Party on this, where does this leave the Lucy Connolly case? I saw some reports today that she might be being released sooner, in the next few weeks. Do we have any updates on that?
No, I couldn't comment further than that. But yes, I think her case will go down in history as one of the most symbolic, horrific, egregious cases that has happened in this country when it comes to free speech. And just to say as well about the two-tier justice, the same judge that gave Lucy her 31-month sentence for a tweet gave a man 20 months for actually participating in the riots. The same judge.
Indeed. Well, let me just read viewers out there this from the Labour Party. Labour Party sources have said to GB News, Councillor Ricky Jones was administratively suspended from the Labour Party, and this remains the case. The investigation is ongoing. The Labour whip was automatically removed when he was suspended, and he will not sit as a Labour councillor. Now, a Labour spokesperson said at the time of his suspension, this behaviour is completely unacceptable and it will not be tolerated. The councillor has been suspended from the party. There you go. Thank you to Connie Shaw and our panel. Now, after the break, as Birmingham Council has ordered locals to take down Union Jack and St George's flags, while the streets remain piled high with rubbish and the council celebrates Pakistan's independence, have they got their priorities completely wrong? We'll be talking to a local politician on the ground in just 2 minutes.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We do have a lot of cloud across the eastern parts of the UK. That's going to spread further west during the next 24 hours. Mostly clear, though, to the far west and staying warm, whether you've got the cloud or the clear spells. We've got high pressure sitting to the northwest of the UK, and with the winds coming in around the top of that high and then running down the North Sea across eastern parts of the UK, we're going to see a lot of North Sea low cloud creep westwards overnight after dark, and that low cloud becoming extensive. A few spots of light rain and drizzle for parts of Scotland, northeast England associated with that low cloud. Clear skies to the west and southwest, 16, 17 Celsius overnight, relatively warm, but similar to recent nights, effectively. And then we wake up Saturday with, well, a real divide across the country. Plenty of sunshine for West and South Wales. The southwest of England seeing sunshine as well, although some parts seeing cloud arrive into the south. Extensive cloud across the rest of England and Wales, away from the northwest of England. Northern Ireland, mixed conditions, a lot of sunshine but some patchy cloud. And then this divide across Scotland with extensive low cloud through the central belt, across some of the higher parts of eastern Scotland, sunshine elsewhere. And where we've got the cloud to start things, it's going to take some time to clear. It will want to try and lift and break as the sun warms things up, but I think it will take until early or even mid-afternoon for many places to brighten up. It's going to be a slow process. That will leave temperatures mostly around the mid to high 20s, where we get the sunniest skies towards the southwest. That's where we'll get the highest temperatures. Sunday's a different beast. I think we're going to start off with less low cloud. That means quite quickly from the word go, temperatures will be rising. Plenty of sunshine, but a cooler airflow at the same time. And so as we go through Monday and Tuesday, temperatures will progressively drop away. Still warm where we get some sunshine and still mostly dry.
You've read the headlines, you've heard what those in power have to say. How about now we actually get to the truth?
They would pay attention.
We go beyond the political theatre and tell you what's really going on behind the scenes. For a massive council tax hike, one of the biggest in the UK. Others follow their lines, but we go off script.
You sound like a broken record, you say that week after week.
Cutting through the narratives and giving you unique perspectives. That's Ben Leo tonight, Saturdays and Sundays from 9 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Friday Night with me, Matt Goodwin, right here on GB News. Now, in Birmingham, locals have been lining their streets with hundreds of Union Jack and St George's flags. But the council wants it to stop, ordering them to be taken down because these dangerous flags on lampposts are apparently a risk to pedestrians and motorists, even though they're hanging 25 feet above the ground. Meanwhile, Birmingham is in the middle of an 8-month bin strike. Rubbish is piling up, the streets stink, and the council effectively went bankrupt back in 2023. Now, you might think that they have bigger priorities, so surely all flags should come down. Well, apparently not. The taxpayer-funded Birmingham Library was lit up green and white for Pakistan's Independence Day, and Palestinian flags flying since the war in Gaza began remain untouched in Birmingham. But first, we have images of Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin's meeting. They landed just minutes ago, and they've started their meeting on peace talks about the Ukraine war. Stick with GB News for more coverage on this. As anything that unfolds over there between Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin, we will be going live to that quicker than anybody. Well, to go back to that story about Birmingham and to discuss it in more detail, I'm joined by the leader of the Conservative group at Birmingham City Council, Robert Oldham. Robert, thank you for joining us tonight. Can you please explain to me and our viewers what on earth is going on in Birmingham, where on the one hand, flags are coming down, UK, England flags coming down, but taxpayer-funded buildings are being used to celebrate Pakistan's independence, and Palestine flags are remaining untouched, because this is more evidence of two-tier Britain, is it not?
Indeed. If you think about all the achievements and sacrifices that happened under our nation's flag, we can all be proud of our national flags. So for Labour to decide they wanted to rip them down in VJ week of all weeks is frankly shameful. And you look at the state of Birmingham, as you said, we've got a bankrupt council, we've got a year-long bin dispute under Labour's failure of leadership. For them to be focusing on the ripping down of our national flags, rather than concentrating on ending the strike, cleaning up the streets of Birmingham and balancing the books, shows what a failure of leadership Labour have delivered in Birmingham.
Robert, you are on the ground. You're a lot more connected to people than I am in Birmingham. What is the specific rationale, the explanation that's being used here for pulling down the flags? I've just read out this quote about them being seen to be dangerous for passing motorists and pedestrians, which seems absurd to me. I mean, have you heard anything else locally about why on earth these flags are being taken down?
So this week, the council made an announcement that the flags are dangerous, as you've said. But what's particularly astonishing about this, as you've mentioned, for 2 years now, other flags have been flying on lampposts in parts of Birmingham, and frankly, the Labour Council have done nothing to take them down. It is only in the last few weeks, when British flags and English flags have started going up, that suddenly the Labour Party have decided that they were dangerous to people. It frankly shows that Birmingham Labour are ashamed of our country.
Well, Robert, I'm just going to bring in my panel, acting Deputy Editor at The Telegraph, Poppy Coburn, and political commentator Kai Wilshaw. Poppy, to me, this is more evidence of what you might call two-tier multiculturalism. Every group is allowed to celebrate their identity, their history, their culture, and the flags that symbolise those things. except if you happen to belong to the British and the English majority.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a real statement to put up those flags, you know, and I think it's a really positive statement. I think it's something we should all really get behind, because if you're offended by putting up the flag that is just the flag of our nation, and you have to come up with the, I'm sorry, can we be frank? That explanation is a load of rubbish, OK? As you rightly pointed out, there have been Palestine flags flying since the start of the war in Gaza, OK? And no one would dare tell those people to take the flags down on health and safety grounds. Let's actually address why these flags are a problem. They probably think it's upsetting community tensions, to which I would respond, if it upsets community tensions to fly the flag of Britain, then we've got a much bigger problem going on here than people are willing to admit.
Absolutely. Kai, what's your take on this? Because when I read about the story, it also took my mind back to the schoolgirl who turned up in her local school, the Culture Day, the Diversity Day. She was wearing a Union Jack dress. She was told, sorry, you can't go in, stay there, get your dad to come and pick you up. Apparently that was considered not to be consistent with the celebration of culture. There are people out there who say, well, look, these are, you know, cases that people are exaggerating. But, I mean, it feels to me as though these examples of a sort of two-tier Britain, where some groups are allowed to celebrate their identity but others are not, just seem to be increasing in volume. And there seems to be a lot more going on than perhaps some of those folks on the left would suggest.
I'm not sure I agree, right? And maybe I'm a bit naive, but I don't see a conspiracy where often it can be explained by incompetence. And if we know anything about incompetence, it is that it is rife in local government, right? Councils not looking after bin collections while also prioritising things like this.
Sure,
it's ridiculous.
But how do you explain the disparity between celebrating Pakistan's independence, like, no offence, but why taxpayer-funded institutions being used to celebrate Pakistan's independence? In the same way that why do we have Labour MPs talking about building an airport in Pakistan from Birmingham, while Birmingham can't even resolve a bin strike?
But if different groups decided to retaliate or do a tit-for-tat, putting their own flags up on lampposts, then you have gangs of flag vigilantes across Birmingham. That doesn't serve anybody. That's very different to having the Birmingham City Council lit up in lights.
But I think it's too late to make that point now. I mean, I think you've already seen what some people online have described as the ultrification of mainland Britain, you know, where people feel that actually just to defend their own national interests, they have to, like, in quite a kind of visual way, show that this is like an area that, like, where, like, Britain is the country that we acknowledge it to be. And I would say in the case of Birmingham City Council in particular, like, it's not just this Pakistan Day flag situation. Like, they've been doing this stuff for an extremely long time. I mean, I would just look into how much money they spend every year on, like, interpreter fees and things.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we do have a statement here. A spokesperson for Birmingham City Council said that it was not about removing specific flags, but about removing attachments for safety purposes. There you go. Not about removing national flags, but removing attachments. Thank you to my panel. Now, after the break, it's Matt in Conversation, and I'm going to be joined by journalist Charlotte Gill, who many of you will know, to discuss her work exposing waste in politics, woke waste in politics, and a recent bombshell story on school children being asked to send Valentine's Day cards to asylum seekers and illegal migrants. See you in 2 minutes.
Dinner under the stars tonight?
That reminds me of our travel insurance.
You mean All Clear Skies?
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Temperatures easing a little bit in Spain and Portugal, but it's still going to be pretty hot for the next few days. Pretty humid in Italy with the threat of a few scattered, heavy, thundery showers. Dry and sunny in Spain and Portugal. As I said, though, temperatures just dropping a little bit here over the next few days. Could be quite breezy for Sicily and parts of northern Tunisia. A bit of a breeze blowing over the Greek islands as well, but plenty of sunshine likely here. Continued risk of a few showers for Italy and Croatia.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News travel destinations forecast.
Wake up with a familiar face. She's back on breakfast television. Penny Smith returns.
Miss me? Well, I'm here and I brought the coffee.
And we're reuniting to brighten your morning.
It's just like old times, only better.
So join Penny and me next Monday and Tuesday only on GB News Breakfast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Okoye, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to Friday Night with me, Matt Goodwin, right here on GB News. Now it's time for Matt in Conversation, where each week I sit down for a frank, no-nonsense discussion with a top expert, with somebody interesting. And this week I'm joined by a very interesting person indeed, journalist Charlotte Gill, who many of you will know. Charlotte has been relentless in exposing government waste, political hypocrisy and the kind of woke nonsense that we are seeing far too often, such as £500,000 of taxpayers' money being spent on a study to improve the treatment of pregnant men. That's right. She also recently broke the story in the Daily Mail about school children being encouraged to send Valentine's Day cards to asylum seekers. Charlotte came up with that story, did the research for that, and of course it went viral, as so much of her stuff does. Charlotte, thank you for joining me. Let me just start with that story about Valentine's Day cards, because this was one of those things that I saw come across my social media and I thought, wait, that cannot be real. Just give our viewers a sense of the story and what on earth was going on.
Yeah, so it all comes down to the an umbrella organisation called City of Sanctuary UK. Now, they have been trying to do what the Democrats did in the US, which is turn the UK into a place of sanctuary cities. So we've got boroughs of sanctuaries, universities of sanctuaries, and we've also got schools and nurseries of sanctuary. We have 1,200 in the UK. And when I started nosing around what they've been up to, I found heart galore, as in children, tiny children sending out Valentine's cards, writing them, being encouraged to make them. And, I mean, to be honest, I was spoilt for material, but now the organisation...
So, sorry, these Valentine's Day cards that we're showing on screen, those are being sent to asylum seekers from British school children?
Yeah, and you'll see in the corner it says, welcome to the stranger. You know, children normally get told, don't talk to strangers. Whereas this scheme is the complete opposite, because it's a nicey inclusion scheme. You know, it must mean that you know, that it's fine because...
And what you're doing with your work, because I read Woke Waste, which is your Substack newsletter, is excellent, where you basically reveal the insanity of what's going on. We've got a couple of examples that we'll come to in a second, and I'll just read through some of those. What to you has been the most eye-opening example of what the institutions have been up to? Because that's what you're basically doing, isn't it? You're revealing what is going on in taxpayer-funded institutions who are spending often hundreds of thousands of pounds from the British people on crazy ideological projects.
Yeah, the worst, I would say, the most urgent problem is in the charity sector. Taxpayer funding going towards what I would deem open border ideology.
Right.
One of the worst examples, perhaps, I've found is a foundation called the Paul Hamlyn Foundation.
Right.
Most people will have never heard of it, but we gave 1.4 million to it between 2020 and 23. And it explicitly believes in open borders. It has a migration fund, which has gone to organisations such as Hope Not Hate Charitable Fund.
Right.
You get these Paul Hamlyn...
So indirectly, that British people, British taxpayers are funding organisations that are then telling the British people they're racist if they complain about broken borders.
Absolutely. Keir Starmer goes on about smash the gangs, but it's more like you need to smash the charities. You know, there's a whole industrial complex that is fueling the opposite of what a lot of taxpayers say they want.
Let me just bring in Kai Wilshaw. What about this Valentine's Day story, Kai? You know, British kids being asked to send Valentine's Day cards to asylum seekers and illegal migrants.
Look, the framing of this does make it look really quite horrible, but actually, the welcome to the stranger phrase that you just used, Charlotte, we used to do that at school back in my day. That's not, to me, new. Things like Operation Christmas Child, this idea of sending gifts to people that you have no chance of ever knowing across the world, and some understanding that you have to have compassion for them. I don't think that's bad.
Well, I think it just speaks for itself if you look at all the photographs. It just goes way too far. And the other problem is the politicisation of schools. The Education Act says that you should not be imparting political views to children or you should not be engaging in political activities. And these children are writing things on the hearts like stop the Rwanda scheme, I love refugee rights, letters to Keir Starmer.
OK, well, a spokesman for Schools of Sanctuary, which Charlotte Gill just mentioned, said this: we know that false inflammatory material about our schools has been circulating online. Contrary to what these dangerous misrepresentations claim, our programmes promote compassion, understanding and safety. Well, there you go. We'll be watching the Sanctuary Network closely, as indeed will Charlotte Gill with her really pioneering work. Well, now, Patrick Christis is coming up next after the show amid this historic Donald Trump-Vladimir Putin summit that we're also tracking behind the scenes. Patrick, what is coming up in your show tonight?
Well, good evening to my wonderful live studio audience. We have got an absolute full house tonight, packed to the rafters, and what a historic night for it. President Trump has just shaken hands with President Putin. They're going to carve up Ukraine. What's really going to happen? But closer to home, I've got an exclusive for you. It's a big one. It would appear that asylum seekers who have just landed here in Britain across the Channel are getting priority GP and NHS appointments. We're also going to be talking about that now suspended Labour councillor Ricky Jones, who was found not guilty, of course. We're going to be comparing and contrasting that to the Lucy Connolly case. Mickey Mouse degrees. Anyone here go to university? No? Yes, all right, we've got a mixed bag. Well, we'll find out who's now worth more money in a little bit, see whether or not it's worth it. We're going to talk about all of that and a lot more as well. And VJ Day, our brave veterans, was it worth fighting for this version of Britain? All of that and more. See you in a sec.
Today's outlook: cool, calm and completely horizontal. Boxed Aircon sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hi there and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. Following the torrential thunderstorms that parts of eastern Scotland saw on Thursday, today dry for most, cooler in the north and across some eastern coasts, but hot sunshine developing elsewhere. High pressure building back in, so it's a settled picture, but a lot of cloud for parts of Northern Ireland, Scotland, and increasingly some low cloud starting to lap onto the eastern coast of England as the day progresses. Hot sunshine elsewhere, and although the cooler breeze across parts of northern and eastern UK will bring about average temperatures, high teens, low 20s. We'll still see much higher than average temperatures, high 20s and possible 31 Celsius across southern parts of the UK. Meanwhile, there will still be 1 or 2 showers developing across parts of eastern Scotland, but nowhere near on the scale of Thursday's downpours. And most places will be dry, albeit rather cloudy, especially for eastern and central Scotland. Some sunshine for the Western Isles as well as for Northern Ireland, but plenty of sunshine there for much of England and Wales, although some coastal